In this video, I'm going to show you how to make acrylic paint skins 10 different ways that can then be used as collage papers. Hello, my name is Catherine Rains. I'm a mixed media collage artist, and welcome to Tune In Tuesday, where I share weekly art demos to expand your mixed media toolbox. If you see value in my videos, I would deeply appreciate a thumbs up, and if you would subscribe to my channel. Links for all the supplies to make paint skins are under Show More down below. And while you're there, you might want to check out my free 5-day online class where I teach you how to use all the papers taught during Tune In Tuesday to make fabulous collages the very first try. So let's get into creating collage papers with acrylic paint skins. I want to talk about where we're headed with this. So some time ago, I created this little collage, and it's actually, by the way, the kind of collage that I'm teaching in Collage Keepsake. And I had this little paint skin that I thought was super cool, and I tried to recreate that paint skin so that I could put it onto other collages, and I wasn't able to do this. And I figured out why, and I'm going to show you how to actually make this successful so you can replicate paint skins and use them in your work, whether you're a collage artist or other kind of artist and you want to do this. First, let's start with what you need supplies wise. Now, the most important supply is what you're going to put this on. So I have the most success using these plastic file folders, but you can also use just a palette. In fact, that's how I have been trying to make paint skins for some time, and I just wasn't successful. But again, I'll tell you why I wasn't and how you can make it successful. The other thing is you need either a gel medium, this is the heavy stuff, not the kind of pouring medium, or the gloss medium. I do have a little bit better success with the gel, but there's problems with this, so I'm trying to make the matte work. That's the basics. And then obviously acrylic paint. So I'm going to show you probably at least 10, 12 ways. We'll see how fast I can go here in getting all of these in. This could have been a two-day demo. So the first thing is I'm going to take a file folder, and I am going to just take some of this acrylic paint. Now, by the way, I use Nova paint. And Nova paint, if you've ever used them, are pretty thin paints. And this is what I exclusively use right now. So this is the number one reason why I wasn't able to make acrylic skins, but I've figured out a way to make it work. If I'm going to use this particular paint, what I would do is I would just squirt this down and spread it out. And the thicker you spread it out, the better. It makes better skin if you've got a pretty thick coat. But again, this particular paint doesn't spread on that thick. That's basically, how you would start the skin. Now, I'm going to show you one that I've already done. So this one is, believe it or not, this is a blue and black together. And I already know that I couldn't once this dries, I couldn't peel this up. It'd be very, very difficult to do. However, if I put a coat of either a gloss medium or a matte medium, there's actually two on here, you can see the different sheens, you will be able to pick this up. So I've already done that. The middle has no coating at all. This would be just bare paint. And the way I start taking this off, this is the matte, this is the gel. I take a palette knife and just start scraping along the edges here. Again, this may have one or two coats of matte medium. And I find that if it doesn't work the first time, okay, so I get it started, and I can get a really sweet little paint skin out of this. Now, since I'm starting it, by the way, this dark blue does not appeal to me in terms of a paint skin. I'm going to show you this is just kind of like basic 101. Now, the problem here is that, hold on, I'm trying to get it all up. It wants to stick to itself because the bottom of this, even though this is just paint on the bottom, it's still acrylic. And acrylic is plastic, and plastic sticks to itself. So if I can keep this from actually, see, it's already sticking to itself. It's so hard to keep it away from itself. Okay, let's go real fast. Actually, I like the back side. So that's a really sweet skin, and this is matte, this is acrylic gel. They both work actually quite well. This is plain paint, but once I start pulling it up, with some kind of coating on top, it'll come off very quickly. However, you know, it wants to fold up. So in order to store this long term, these file folders are really useful. In fact, what I usually do, I would open this up and I would lay this in there, and then I would just literally, so imagine that this is inside the folder, and I would file it this way. Now see, it's already, but the matte side is doing better. The side that has the gloss on it is just really hard to keep flat. The matte isn't. It's not perfect, but it's easier to do than the gloss side. So this, like this is a piece of palette paper. This is all my extra paint from one of my sessions. And this paint, again, is so thin, it's Nova paint, that I knew I wasn't gonna be able to pull all these little tiny thin lines out. So I did put, let's see, I'll get an edge here. I put a coat of gloss medium, in this case, on this one. And I can peel this up, oops. Hence why I said, but it works better on the file folders, although this is going to work too. It just is going to be a little grumpy getting off the palette paper. So obviously on the palette paper you're using the shiny side because it's kind of a plastic coated. And so when I pull this off, I mean, that makes a beautiful skin right there. Let's see if I can go all the way, because it's actually attached to the next one. I really love the transparency of that. Now, again, as soon as I am done, I'm going to actually put this on the floor, but I'm going to put this in a file folder right away, or I'm never going to be able to use this. It's all going to crinkle up on each other. So this one actually came up really well. Now, if you watched my reel on Instagram yesterday, this is the one that I actually showed. And this, again, has a gloss on it. And it just wants to, actually, I guess I can pull it up. And this would be maybe interesting oblong circles here. But some of them are actually, you know, they're irreparable. So that's why I started thinking, do I really want to put the gloss on it unless I can get it into a folder right away? And obviously I didn't do that with this one. Method number 2 is to use the gel medium, either the gloss or the matte, right away and mix the paint into it. So I'm going to put, by the way, I'm using, this is a regular gel matte medium. I'm going to put a big glob of this down. And then I'm going to mix my paint into it. This works exponentially better. So I'm going to put a little of my red, a little yellow. Again, I use 3 colors, Hansa Yellow Light, Quin Magenta, and a blue, which is a phthalo blue, which I'm not going to be using today. Now this does turn this kind of a salmon, which if I was not using the gel medium with this, you wouldn't see salmon. But you can see this is already really thick, which means when I push this out like that, this alone will allow me to actually peel it up because I've got such a thick paint here. So that is very nice. Just get that off my paintbrush. Now, by the way, when this dries, because this is a medium, it'll actually bring the color back. Well, this is probably already a little bit of an orange color already, but this is much more salmon because of the white of the matte medium. So this is not necessarily something I want to use in my art. I might as well just use paper. However, let me show you the end result of this. So this is one I already did. Same thing. I added some matte medium into it. And so this is just matte medium and my Nova paints, pretty thin paint. And when I peel this off, this is matte as opposed to gloss. This comes off beautifully. I would still store it in a file folder because it's still plastic, particularly on the back side. It's going to be more sticky, but I don't feel any stick at all. Now this one's a much thinner one. However, it was still mixed with the matte medium before I actually let it dry. And this one I really like a lot because I spread it out really thin, so it's got the translucency. Now this I would use in collage personally because I love that you can see behind it. In fact, I would like to spread it out even thinner. And by the way, if it gets too thin, I can always, if I can't like figure out a way to get it up like on the edge so it actually comes off, I could also put another layer of matte medium on top of it. So the thicker I make it, the more likely it is there's a piece that I can actually use. So again, this is matte medium mixed with the gel. So this is the same thing. This is my Nova paint mixed with gloss medium. And you know, it depends what your own preference is for shiny or not, but I just think this is pretty gorgeous. Although I usually do not use a gloss on my work. I almost always use matte, but this would make me reconsider because I just think that's really cool. So I could tear, actually I can't tear this up. This is plastic, but you know, wherever you see that little hole, that's a solid piece of plastic there. So if I wanted to use this, I'd actually take scissors and cut out pieces of it. Like that little arc there would be a beautiful finishing touch to a collage. Now, this particular one is very thin. Just, by the way, it took me a while to figure out just to use a palette knife to get it to pull up. And this one, but this one's also mixed with the gel gloss, and it's thin. It's really thin. Yet just one coat of the gel gloss gave me that real beautiful translucency. And again, this is something I would use in a collage. I love that. Now, another alternative is to use a heavy body paint. So this is a golden heavy body paint. Now this works right out of the tube. I don't have to do anything to it. Look how thick that is. So any heavy body paint, other than my Nova, which does not do this, if I spread this out, I can make all kind of designs in it. And by the way, imagine this is a palette, you know, so I'm doing this on my palette paper. You know, when I am, you know, often, at least I am often mixing paint right on the palette paper, and I've got all this leftover paint, I can make some designs in it, which I'm actually going to do at the very end of this. So that could be a really interesting piece of collage fodder. And let me show you the end result of this. I got Post-it notes everywhere to remind myself, how in the hell did I do that? So this is the golden heavy body paint. So same thing, you just pull it up. And again, I would store this in a file folder, only because this is also plastic, and plastic against plastic, it wants to fold in. But that is a heavy piece of fodder. You know, almost makes me want to go to golden paints. But I really like thin paint, which is why I use Nova. But in terms of a piece of collage fodder to put on top of something, I think that's really quite beautiful. By the way, this isn't just another color. I think this was Seigneulet paint, also a heavy body. Again, I think that would be a really useful piece, you know, to kind of put a finishing touch on my collages. Okay, so I'm going to put a big chunk of gel medium down. And again, it could be the gloss medium, doesn't need to be matte. And I'm just going to I'm only going to put a dot of color in it. And since the magenta is not a color I usually use, I'm going to put a little yellow in it too. And I am going to mix this up. So, mix it up right on the thing here. And what I want to do is spread it out kind of thinnish, because I'd like to see some windows underneath here. I want it to be kind of transparent, so I got to spread this out pretty far. Now, this is turning salmon again, but when I let this dry, it'll get a much richer color. The color will come back. So I'm going to spread this out as far as I dare. But because I've put gel into the paint, it will come off fairly easily. Now, what I'm going to show you is something I had a lot of fun with. I was experimenting with all different ways to embed things into this. And I'll show you what I've tried, but just imagine there's so many possibilities of what you can embed. So I'm going to leave some windows there. I'm going to actually scrape it. Because there's actually, even though you see some kind of windows there, there's actually, because it's also plastic there, because I'm not scraping all of it off. There's still some of that gel medium that's mixed in with the paint. Okay, that's good. Show you some of the things that I started embedding in this. So this is a piece of mesh. Now, by the way, if I could have found my cheesecloth, I would have put cheesecloth in here, but I looked everywhere for cheesecloth. But this is just a fine mesh. So put that in there. I think that's pretty cool. And by the way, the mesh actually makes this stronger. And actually, I could even put a little of this on top as well, just to kind of embed that mesh into that paint. And this will be a super cool piece of collage fodder when it all dries. Next up, this is just a piece of lacy collage paper that I've had around. I have it on a roll. So do the same thing. And I could put stuff on top or just lay it in like that. I kind of like it laying on top, actually. So if I was going to make a big piece of this, you know, I would actually make a whole sheet just of this beautiful lacy paper. I love that. I'm sure most of you have this. This is a pattern for whatever you call that, for making clothes. I think this is super cool. And this is one of my favorite pieces of collage paper. This is honeycomb. Put that down. Love that too. And this is just another piece of paper. It's another kind of a tissue kind of paper. And I've actually done this here. I actually added even less paint, so it's even more transparent. So the less paint, the better. So this is that. You know, if I put it down a little more, it'll have a little more color. That is this. The paper, and then I have another piece. This is actually the mesh. I like the mesh a lot. You can see the mesh has a really interesting design. By the way, today I also experimented with putting little beads. These are just little glass beads. But unfortunately, this is the thin paint, so it's not going to be able to pull up. So on this side of it, I put some gel medium, but unfortunately it didn't dry in time, so I can't actually show that to you. So this is, if you've ever seen this thing, it's called tar gel, is I'm going to pour a little tar gel in my glass. Now, I don't know how old this tar gel is. I use this in Collage Kickstart to make glue resist papers. Okay, so here's my fire folder. I've got some tar gel in here. And what I'm going to do is just put a dot. I don't need much. I don't think I'm going to put a dot of red in it too. For some reason, yellow by itself in this doesn't excite me. That's a nicer color right there. And hopefully I have enough mixed up. We'll see. Now I'm going to take my palette knife. See if I can get enough. I probably should have done this on the palette paper and not in here, but this will work. And you kind of spread it out. This takes a little bit of practice. We'll see if this works. Yeah, it's working. I'm trying to get this to come off. But again, this may not look like a lot sitting right here, but when I put this on top of a collage as an added layer, this is a transparent piece of paper that would just be a nice finishing touch that people will go, wow, where'd you get that? They won't realize that it's just tar gel. Now, because that's so lacy, so what I would do is let this dry and then put a coat of either the gel or the matte on top. And here is one that I did a few days ago. And again, I'm just gonna, this is on the palette paper. Pull this up. Look at that, it just comes right off so easily. And again, I think this would be a really interesting thing. Like take a strip of that. In fact, I'm going to do this for my addition to Collage Keepsake that I'm going to do. I'll be taking a little piece of that and adding that to a harvest collage. I love that. Tar gel. Another cool one. By the way, they're all cool. File holder. You put on here some interference paint. So this is interference blue, interference green. So I'm just going to try some of the blue. Put a little bit out. And really, you can spread this out any way you want. You know, just make a design. But another idea, so I'm just, randomly spreading this, is you can also take a stencil and paint this on with a stencil. So I think this is interference green. I got blue down there. And I can paint this into the holes. By the way, this is only half of it. It's a pretty cool effect. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but there it is. So I'll take this up. Now that's pretty cool, but that is just the beginning of it. So what you do, I'm going to show you, I already have one done. So here is one, here's a stencil, it's hard to see, and here's just me kind of scribbling. That interference paint needs to totally dry in order for this to work. So then the magic is right over this, I'm going to put this blue and maybe add a tinge of, by the way, I'm trying not to only use blues and greens. Someone challenged me to do that and I said, okay, I'll do reds. But you know, of course, what I love is the blues. So I'm gonna do one blue. So you just add a darker color on top. It's interesting, I'm getting some separation here. Now I would need to let this dry, but if you look on the back side, you can see this really beautiful magic, and you peel that up. Now, there's a chance, because it's really thin paint, that you might need a coat of gel medium also when it dries, which means I let this dry, I put a coat of medium on it so that it can easily peel it up. But I already have one that I did. This one is one that I did earlier. No particular design really, but if I start lifting this up, I think this has 2 coats of gel medium because the paint was not coming up easily when I first tried it, so I put a second coat and let it dry. So, peel this up. And again, this is a little precarious because this actually was a gloss medium. It's going to want to, if I don't get it into a file folder pretty quick, it's going to want to fold in on itself, stick to itself. But let me get this up and show you how cool this is. Come on. There you go. So that's the back side of it. You know, I didn't do any, I just think that's a beautiful, beautiful kind of a surprise piece of collage fodder. Similar to that one is this. So what I did is I just put down a coat, pretty heavy coat. This is matte gel. And I'm going to take, so this is the same stencil just to make it easy. Just going to spread use up the rest of my blue. Now, that's pretty basic, right? But I would let that dry, and then I would put a coat or 2, but I would put it, you know, would let dry in between of the matte gel. And then I just peel it off, and I've got then transparent dots. Now this one I did earlier. This I put a layer, I think it's either gel or matte, I don't know, but it's the heavy gel. And then I put the paint on top and put the stencil on afterwards. So you see kind of like a shadow of this. Let's see if this will come up for me easily. I think it will. Yeah, this has a matte on top. Okay. So this one, oh my gosh, I love that. You know, it's transparent. It's very thick. So I put down a piece of, it was a coat of gel first, then let it dry, then put the paint on it. And there's some texture in how I did it. So I even like that. You know, if I had chosen not to put the stencil on it, it would have still worked, because I can catch all that, the texture from the gel. So for this one, I'm going to put down a big, by the way, I'm trying to, I'm really experimenting with the matte version. I originally did everything in gloss, but then I had that, once everything dried, I realized I was having some problems getting it to not stick on itself. So what I'm going to do, this comes first. I put the gel down, and then I've got these 2 products. Now, by the way, these have been in my stash forever. Gold mica and pearl mica flake. This one is so dry though. It does work, but I'm finding that this one, at least because it's fresher. So I'm going to take a bit of this, and I don't need much. I'm just going to add a little bit to this. And then I'm going to actually use my palette knife and mix this all up. Now, this stuff is really quite magical. This is definitely going to end up in a collage or many collages, because I didn't put, there's a lot of the ratio of matte medium, or gel medium I should say, to this pearl mica, much more of the gel. So what I want to happen is I want that mica to really be the star. I want it to shine through. Now, you can't really see it that well now because it's wet, and the gel is hiding it. However, this is the end result. So this one, by the way, was actually my gold mica flake, and it did work. It's just that it's really thick. I couldn't thin it out. But this one is the pearl mica, and I absolutely adore this. It's, really thin, and it's going to store really easily too. This doesn't have near the stickiness. Now I also played with actually making some shapes out of the pearl mica. And I think this is pretty cool too. I think I want to make more of those. I think they'd be very effective on a collage as a finishing touch. So the next one is the one I showed on my reel. I made these little swirls. And if you've taken Collage Joy with me, and those of you who are taking Collage Keepsake right now, this is one of the papers I actually demonstrate, except I don't do it on file folder, I'm doing it on tissue. So what I did for this, I mixed up some paint. So I have a little red, and I'm gonna add a little yellow to that, and more yellow over here. Just kind of mad scientist way. And I might even put more of the red in. So for me, I'm just doing a little one because I really want the circles a little smaller. So you just dip it, get a little variety of colors on your thing, and I'm just going to make swirls, which by the way, I adore this for collage fodder. And I also make them on just tissue. But the tissue, the only reason, I love doing this on tissue, but you don't get complete transparency. You can get big transparency by scraping away the tissue that isn't, it's underneath here. But this, no scraping. It's just easy peasy. So let me put this aside. I'm not going to fill the whole sheet up. This is the one I did, or the technique I used on the reel. Now this has a mat on it, and pull the sides up. So I was hoping that the mat would be a little more stable in terms of not folding in on itself. So let's see how this does compared to the one I showed you that kind of all curled on itself and stuck to itself, I should say. Whew. Well, that one's nice. Yes, I like this. Now, by the way, this side, you can see the difference. This is a matte on it. I don't think it's completely dry, but it does have a dullness to it. Whereas this one is my gloss. And again, the gloss is already wanting to stick to itself where this isn't. So this is much more likely what I'll use, but I'm going to get this right into a file folder because I don't want all of this, sticking to itself kind of business here. This is a very interesting product. This is silicone putty. If you've ever played with this stuff, it comes in 2 containers like this. And what you do, basically what we're doing is making a mold to create a mold for a skin. So you scoop out about equal amounts from each jar. And by the way, it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not measuring this. And seal these up because they do dry out fast. Okay, then you mix this. And you can see right now it has 2 colors, but it's done when there is no difference in color. So you just push it. So imagine that this is all one color, because I'm gonna kind of abbreviate this. But the end result is a piece of putty that looks like this. And you can take anything that has some kind of, impression on it. So I took this leaf. And you see that this one needs to be kneaded a bit. But by the way, if I don't knead this right away, it will turn hard. So I'll do it as soon as the demo's over. But here you go. This one's already in here. And what you do is just pull, this has been, let me just tell you this. So once I put the leaf in here, the whole thing will dry in about 10 minutes, maybe at the most. Then I can pull this out, and I've got a beautiful little impression here. And then I can put paint in that groove, and I can peel it off, and I've got a skin. So I took this is some kind of, I have no idea what this is, but I used it to make an impression. This is what I got. And if I peel this up, so there's my mold, but there is my little skin, which I think is really interesting. I would probably use those dots. I really like them. I'm not sure if I like the color, but I can also paint this. Now, I did try this a second time, and this one was actually using this, and the holes were really deep, and although it looked like it was going to work, and the mold looks fine, but this, I'm not sure if I would actually use that or not. And it takes some experimentation, but the shallow did work. And I don't know, I made one with a leaf earlier. This is the leaf I used, just, slight veins in it. And you can see the veins through here, but I'm not sure if it's dry enough. It does take a little bit of time to dry. So let's see if I can peel this off. It looks like it might work. Oh, goodness. Oh, yes. Wow, that is so beautiful. Can you see that? That is just a beautiful paint skin. I'd probably cut around there so I don't have all that extra stuff on the side, and I can see myself laying this down on a collage. Now, I've got this paint here. I don't want to waste this paint here. You know, so, you know, if you're using palette paper, I don't always use it, but when I do, I always end up with piles of paint. So what I started doing is just, you know, taking any kind of bottle cap, it can be anything, it could be a palette knife, and just making designs, you know, spreading that around. So I've got something, I mean, this already looks pretty intentional, you know, in terms of a design, and I would just keep going. But I want pretty thick paint, you know, so we're, meaning even though this is a Nova paint and it is thin, wherever I've got some globs, I'm going to have better success with pulling it up as a paint skin. If I was using, let's say, a golden heavy body, that's no problem at all because it's already so thick. I don't need to put any gloss medium on top of that. So let me show you. Imagine this is all completely filled up. So here is one I already did. Now, by the way, I just put an extra coat of it right before I started, just to make it a little thicker. But this, I really didn't need to. So if I start pulling this up, so even though, you know, there's no paint in certain places, I can pull this entire thing up and have a very interesting piece of collage fodder using my excess paint. Because, you know, who wants to throw away good paint? So the palette paper is perfect for making skins. But here's the thing, you know, when I tried making skins deliberately, like I showed you in the very beginning, I was using palette paper, but I was using my Nova paint without putting some kind of coating on top. And it just wasn't working because the paint, oops, oh, okay, here's the thing. I did not put that coating on this side. So it was perfect on right here. So I can just pull this off. This is the paint by itself, and it is not going to come out of the skin. This will. And I've got very super cool transparency here. I've got another one right here. This one, I can't do it. So I have to actually put a coat on. This is actually just, I had extra paint. I made these kind of like swirly designs, but I've got to put a coat of gel or matte medium or it's not going to come up. Okay, one more thing. So here's a file folder, and it is all messed up. So what I discovered, if I want to clean this up and be able to use this file folder a second time, or a third and fourth time, all I need to do is put a coat of gel medium on it. So I did that earlier. Now, come on, it has to actually work for me now. So I put it, and I only did it on this side, but I'm just scraping it away, and now, now, by the way, there's also paint on the back side, but I've just pulled off the paint that was on this one side, and at the same time, I've got collage fodder. I'm going to put this in a file folder because for me, this right here could be a really cool top layer for a harvest collage. So that's it. Thank you for hanging out with me for this long and for being part of my life. And I will see you here next week for Tune In Tuesday. Bye, everyone. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use make acrylic paint skins and then use them for collage papers. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make acrylic paint skins 10 different ways. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make acrylic paint skins. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make acrylic In this video, I'm going to show you how to make acrylic paint skins 10 different ways and then use them as collage papers. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make acrylic paint skins 10 different ways that can then be used as collage papers. Hello, my name is Catherine Rains, and welcome to Tune In Tuesday, where I share weekly art demos to expand your mixed media toolbox. Hello, my name is Catherine Rains. I'm a mixed media collage artist. Hello, my name is Catherine Rains. I'm a mixed media collage artist, and I share weekly art demos Hello. Hello, my name is Catherine Rains. I'm a mixed media. I can't do this today. Hello, my name is Catherine Rains. I'm a mixed media collage artist, and welcome to Tune In Tuesday, where I share weekly art demos to expand your mixed media toolbox. If you see value in my videos, I would deeply appreciate a thumbs up, and if you would subscribe to my channel. Links for all the supplies to make paint Links for all the supplies to make paint skins are in the description below. Links to make paint skins are under the Show More down below. And while you're there, check out my free 5-day class, Collage Kickstart, where you will use And you might also want to check out my free 5-day workshop, my free 5-day online workshop where I teach you how to use all the collage papers taught during Tune In Tuesday to make fabulous collages the very first try. And while you're there, links for all the supplies to make paint skins are under Show More down below. And while you're there, you might want to check out my free 5-day online class where I teach you how to use all the papers taught during Tune In Tuesday to make fabulous collages the very first try. So let's get into creating paint skins. So let's get into creating So let's get into creating paint skins. So let's get into creating collage papers. So let's get into creating collage papers from paint skins. So let's get into creating collage papers with acrylic paint skins.